Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started with the March
I'm not
KAAC
hearing
activity.
anyone. Maybe I'll sign out and come back in.
Yes, we will give Commissioner Trent Davis an opportunity to rejoin us. I was able to hear Stacy, so I think something was happening with his system. If I recall correctly, we need to have four for quorum. Is that correct, Stacy? Okay. Commissioner Davis, can you hear us now?
Loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay. So we will go ahead and call to order the March 6th meeting of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission. We will begin with our roll call. Executive Director Nell, can you go ahead and confirm who all is present
We can
and
try.
not
Can you hear
present?
me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Just for the sake of my computer being weird, I can see Angeline, Jade, Crystal, and Trent, and Mark is absent. I did contact Mark, and he is not available. So he didn't contact me, so I don't know if we count that, how we're going to count that, but I do know where he is. But I had to ask him. He didn't contact me.
Okay, so to confirm, we have present Commissioner Crystal Davis, we have present Commissioner Trent Davis, we have present Commissioner Jade Ramsdale, and myself, Commissioner Angelin F. Johnson, present. The only absent is Commissioner Mark McCormick. Since he did communicate that, we will take note that communication was received that he would not be present. But we do have quorum, so we can move forward with the business at hand. The minutes were sent out by our executive director. Is there a motion to accept those minutes? Or are there any questions or requests for any updates to those minutes?
Commissioner Trent Davis, I move to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
Is there a second, Commissioner Ramsdale? I think I saw you off mute.
Yeah, Commissioner Ramsdell. I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are you ready for the question? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, minutes approved. We do have a guest with us today for our public comment period. We have Mr. Lazone Grays. Hello, Mr. Grays. Good to see you again.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can.
Excellent.
Wonderful. So we did receive a correspondence from Mr. Grays with a proposal that communication was sent back to him asking if he would be able to share with us what he has submitted for our review. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to review what was submitted. But Mr. Graves, we wanted to give you opportunity to speak to us about what you have submitted and what specific asks that you may have of the commission. And we have about 10 minutes for
Okay.
that
Thank
conversation.
you for, thank you for letting me know because I can go on and on. I think I had alluded to this. At first, thank you for your time. I think I alluded to some type of a statewide fund when you had me on before. And as I mentioned before, it's something that I've been working on probably for decades. And it seems like to me, the moment that we are in, that we do something different and look forward to the future, especially considering, just the times that are going on. So I submitted that earlier. Maybe I can spend most of the time asking any questions that anyone may have had on it. And then at the end, I can definitely give what I believe would be good recommendation to move forward. I think at the end of what happens, uh, looking at the statutes in your articles, I know that the CAC, I think it's K, does have the opportunity or the ability to establish advisory committees on special projects. I think when I spoke a couple of times, even at the Black Legislative Day last year and before, trying to convince to create some type of economic empowerment or something committee for the state under the KAAC, so we can get people with subject matter expertise to sort of look at these type of proposals here, to vet them, to see if the KAAC would adopt them. We have to start bringing some of our own tools to the table. And I noticed that there was a new something I had never seen, 74-9906, appointment of technical advisors and assistants. I'm not sure, I had never seen that, but I think that that would also create an avenue where, I myself, I would come on board and be one of those persons, and I don't need compensation. I would do anything what it takes to get the job done. And so first, I think to just answer any questions that anybody had or thought of from the document that I had sent.
So thank you, Mr. Grace. I see Commissioner Trent Davis. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I love the document. That's something I've wished someone would do anywhere I lived for the last 40 or 50 years. It does take a lot of trust and belief that working together we can get farther than we can alone. What type of governing board do you envision, and where would persons who would direct this come from? I mean, do you have any thoughts on the governance?
Yes. And I go back when the beginning of the KAAC, and I try to look at what is the abilities within the KAAC and its statutes. The government, the KAAC, I believe, have always believed that would be the best seat for it. It is, back in the day when we tried it the first time around, it's legal. That's something that the KAAC can do. Contributions can be tax deductible. I think I outlined in there how the best accountability can be held if it's under the KAAC other than some external nonprofit organization. It's already sort of built in to the governance. So a committee could help. I think that the KAAC, y'all still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. The KAAC would be sort of the seating body of this committee, that's its authority, and everything would be under the guidance of that committee and under the KAAC. And it would give a broader statewide representation because something of this magnitude, really needs buy-in. And I think that now our people are hungry for something to buy into. So everything under the KAAC is really where the accountability and the integrity, I think that many people across the state, that they would respect that.
Again, I understand that, we are appointed and subject to the whims of those who appoint us. And in that regard, aren't truly a standalone independent organization. And there's no guarantee that you have any continuity from one version of this committee to another. I don't know how, I guess I was just thinking it may be safer while we may organize it and oversee it, have some other independent. I'm just thinking out loud on the fly. I might change my mind tomorrow morning. Who knows?
I understand. But the reason of that is that, we have some internal things that I feel, that we have to address, the silo portion of it. And, they may not give the IBSA and they may not give this one here, but across the state, which is nonpartisan, and has some oversight. And even as people transcend, it's not, this is just one proposal for economic development. There could be others that other groups or individuals may bring over the years, but finding something that can be a staple of what we are doing. It's not something that is so much altered. We raise money, we give out grants, and support, but it's from our self-effort. If Hills want to make a $20,000 contribution, they can do that. I think that we need a vehicle, not just for us to be self-determined, but one that can get some of these other companies who do donate funds to things. I think that they say, well, that's a very well-structured operation.
Mr. Reeves, I know that the proposal has been provided to the members of the commission, but this is a public-facing conversation that everyone who may hear this meeting, watch this meeting, is not going to be aware of what you have proposed. Can you provide a summary overview of what it is that you have proposed that we're speaking to?
Okay, what I propose is under the Kansas African American Affairs Commission that statewide economic empowerment fund be created, which can receive contributions, donations, that there would be some type of buy-in for, I think I put $100 a year for individuals, $250 a year for businesses. Maybe that's nonprofits just as well, a very small amount. But looking at the numbers of how many people that we have, how many businesses that we have in Kansas, which I shared during my presentation, looking at the numbers of how many, how high and disparate our unemployment numbers are. And as Sheila had mentioned, you know, the inability to access some of these funds for our businesses, these are things that I believe that on our own, we can build up something to where we can start satisfying some of those things. So first, one is to the creation of a Kansas African American Economic Empowerment type of fund to bring in the funds legitimately. Second, to get there, that probably, you know, I'm just throwing this out here as a proposal. I have more than one document to give you. I would rather have a meeting on a committee, whereas I could present it formally, you know, and then I can ask, people can ask questions, and it's a little bit more in depth so that you can vote on, I guess you can vote on if you're going to have an economic development committee or not. But once that is there, I would rather have a body who thinks economic to bring this idea to bring it back to the commission for consideration and vote. I'm just sort of, this is sort of the tip of the spear. It's not the ask, because this couldn't be done without some type of a committee that's really pinpoint focusing on where are we going with this. It couldn't need to be a committee for education or some others, but I'm really just focused on economic empowerment at this time. So it's creation of a fund, establishment of a committee. I saw that last portion up there there on the appointment of technical advisors and assistants. You know, it doesn't have to be me. I would like to be on, I can even be on the economic development committee, you know, however it is, but I do want to try to advance this conversation, this one thing, to the point that we're either going to do it or we're not. Because I got $100 every year that I'll give in a heartbeat. And I'll pledge $250 from our organization every year.
Thank you, Mr. Graves. Are there any other questions or comments? I would like to raise, as a commission, one of the things that we have done for this current year that we sit in is establish priorities. And as a commission, we spent time to identify what were going to be our priorities for this current year, priorities that that we felt were important to the Black community, priorities that we felt that we could have some impact in through the work of the commission and through our work as commissioners. And one of those priorities that was identified was that of economic empowerment. So, Mr. Grace, thank you for lifting and raising this possibility to the commission. It is in alignment with what we as commissioners have voted on to state is one of our areas of focus that we felt deserved some attention and the opportunity to see what we in our role as commissioners and what the role the commission could do to advance that within the state. And again, economic empowerment is one of those areas of focus. I'm going to again look to, yes, Commissioner Trent Davis.
Is there to Mr. Graves, is there a place that any of us individually with other organizations can get more information about this from you? Or contact
Sure, I can,
information?
I'm sorry, what was contact information?
Yes.
Well, I'm the originator, the brainchild, you know, of it. So it probably just sort of sits with me. You know, if I need to, I don't want to inundate anybody with no documents, but I can send 3 supplemental documents that really hones in on this proposal and idea that some of it's duplicate information, but some of it really sets up the numbers. And I can answer to the numbers. You know, there is a specific number of Black Americans or Black Kansans in Kansas. So we can do some numbers guesstimation. There are the same with Black businesses. Now, if I'm looking for self-determination, we can first look at ourselves. But I do believe that we have a lot of allies across the state. We have corporations that give across the state, but they don't have an individual vehicle where they can donate 20,000 to us and 20,000 to someone in Wichita. That's great. But they can also donate 20,000 each to this fund. And then we can have a little bit more say so on how we target those things that we see is not happening from your traditional foundations and your traditional funding sources. We can fill the
Right.
gap.
I understand that. Does our executive director have your contact information?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Are there any other questions or comments from the members of the commission? If not, Mr. Grace, I do have a request. You mentioned that you have some additional documents that further frame out what you're proposing. If you could share those with us. I think a point that was lifted by Commissioner Davis that we do have to be mindful of is the revolving nature of sorts of the commissioners and how the commission is situated. So as you're sharing this, what I'm hearing, and that's why I want you to also clarify the ask, is not that you're necessarily asking the commission to own it, but we could be a conduit, a vehicle to help push information out, to help identify perhaps how this could be manifested and what that can look like as far as actual structure and who owns this approach at economic empowerment through this sort of proposal.
Yes.
But first, we need to have more clarity and understanding of what it is and what it can be to then determine, based on the realities of how we are structured and situated, what would be our most prudent approach to advance it if it makes sense to us for advancing.
Yes.
So
One
if
of the
you
things,
can,
one
go
more
ahead.
thing, one of the things up under your statute there, that the CAC can accept contributions to assist in the effectuation of this section and seek and enlist cooperation from private, charitable, religious, labor, civic, and benevolent organizations for the purpose of this section. And so the CAC can receive monies for things, and it is tax deductible. And so I will get the rest of those documents to you. Maybe it'll answer some of those questions. It's sort of not so much that the CAC has ownership, but they are the stewards, and it's probably how it should be. But I will get those documents to you. Then, however you want to set up the follow-up, I'm ready and available.
Wonderful. And this is what I would ask, and I appreciate you going to the statute that identifies what our powers are, what our authorities are. What I would encourage is as you develop those documents and when you transmit that to us, refer to the statute as well. Make that a part of your submission to us as a standing of why you feel that the commission would be an appropriate vehicle to advance what you are recommending.
Okay. Okay.
I will again ask, are there any additional questions or even requests for Mr. Gray's, Commissioner Crystal Davis?
Yes, hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Graves, and I did get an opportunity to read the proposal. I'm sorry, I have a retainer in my mouth, so if it sounds a little off, forgive me. And I did have some questions, kind of jotted some notes down, but I think rather than ask, as you said, sending us more documents, we'll probably answer those questions because I was thinking about stewardship, financial responsibility, the bandwidth of this commission and future commissions, because this is definitely, I see, a long-term, right, worthy project, but could and should, frankly, extend way beyond us as the present commission and future commissions I could see if set up, and managed, 10, 20 years from now. So I won't, take our time now to ask them, but I feel like maybe with the additional documents, some of those questions will be answered. So thank you. Really great vision. I took some time to really take notes and read through it, and fantastic vision. I was thinking of just the bandwidth, the vision, and the trust of such a major project and what it could do and how it could bless the state of Kansas and Black Kansans. So thank you for that. And, I look forward to reading more of that information. So thank you.
And again,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Graves, I reiterate and affirm the appreciation of you taking the time to craft and draft this and to present it to us. So thank you for that. And we look forward to receiving the additional documents. As I believe you're aware, we meet monthly. So our next meeting is scheduled for, I believe the 3rd of April will be the first Friday in April. We typically meet on the first Fridays, if I recall correctly. So we can get it, prior to that, we can have the discussion again next month on next steps. To my fellow commissioners, as well as the executive director, just reflecting on our conversations about KAAC, our purpose, how to be impactful, and how to be relevant in the state. Is my hope that we are entering into this with a spirit of openness of possibilities. I can't say that I'm aware of something like this being facilitated or held by the commission previously, but just because it hasn't been done previously does not mean it's something that can't be done now or moving forward. So if we are sincere about best positioning KAAC based on our statutory authority, as Mr. Graves will include as he represents his proposal, let us enter into that with an open mind and with an intent on how to be most effective. As Commissioner Crystal Davis shared, and also Commissioner Trent Davis, not just for the current sitting commission, but for the commission as an entity and whomever sits in these seats to be able to have a tool and a vehicle to have impact in the state. With that, again, thank you, Mr. Graves, and look forward to receiving additional documentation.
Well, thank you all for your time and have a great weekend.
Thank you. Okay, we will continue on with our agenda as soon as I find it with all of these windows here. Okay, so we will now move forward with a chair update. I do not have any items for update, so we will move forward with our executive director update, beginning with Black Legislative Day.
Hopefully you can hear me. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Good. I'm gonna talk fast. I would say Black Legislative Day was a success. We had about 200 people, and all of the marketing worked out. The food was good. We learned some things, but I'm gonna count it success. I heard almost overwhelmingly positive responses from people. Notwithstanding, there was this issue, and I knew this walking in the door, us not being in the Capitol for the majority of the things, that's kind of missing, but there's a plan for next year. The budget update, I sent you guys all the budget information, but just from the total spend from Black Legislative Day was $10,160. The lion's share of that was.
Stacey, before you transition to the next item, the budget, can we go back to the Black Legislative Day and request for any feedback or thoughts from commission? So I know that there were some conflicts in schedule for two of us that are on the call. Commissioner Ramsey, I know you're not feeling well. I don't know if you want to share any thoughts or feedback that you have from the event, and then I can share some of my own.
Yeah, I thought the event went well. Thanks for passing it over to me. I heard some feedback from folks in terms of kind of what Stacy already spoke to with being at the Capitol, but overall, everyone seemed to be very pleased with the space, thought it was beautiful. I heard some feedback in terms of movement, I would say is probably the best way to put it, like how folks flow in and out of that very large space that we had and the transitions. But I feel like we adapted pretty quickly to all of that. And it seemed that folks were adjusting well. I think Stacy came up on stage a few times and a few others to redirect folks. So I feel like everyone adapted really well. And overall, it was a really good turnout. What I might do is I wrote down a lot of notes from that day, bring that back to the group because I know there's a lot more that I'm not speaking to right now in my current state. But overall, I would say that I've heard some pretty positive things and that it really encouraged folks. And it was the kind of uplifting conversation that folks were wanting to have around this time.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsdale. Um, I will share. Also, I know there was quite a bit of concern about the shifting of location and how that would be received by attendees. I also didn't hear any negative to that effect personally. People were there. It was a great turnout. People seemed comfortable in being in that space. Just notes for next year, and I know we've already talked about it, day of, just the flow as far as if we continue to do host it at docking, a mindfulness of how we do with the meal and the placement of the meal. The most critical feedback that I heard and also might have some shared perspective on is um, again, the purpose of the event and the opportunity for attendees to truly engage in the process, the legislative process. We did have opportunity for people to go and tour, not tour, but to sit in on some of the legislative hearings, committee meetings and hearings. There was also full session happening at the same time with a major topic that, again, we don't know in advance exactly what will be discussed on the days that we are there. But I do want to encourage that we, in the future, make a really strong concerted effort to take full advantage of having uh, our constituents and members at the Capitol to be more fully involved in conversations that directly impact and pertain to us. This year, there was the Charlie Kirk legislation that was happening simultaneously. We did not know in advance that that was going to happen as we were planning for this, but once it was understood, I know that some of the more critical feedback that I received is that um, there was a desire for there to have been more of a presence in the gallery to hear and be witnessed and be seen as that very contentious conversation was happening that had a direct implication to us. And the sense is that many did not know and realize that conversation was happening real time. And that perhaps was a missed opportunity. And I won't say perhaps, it was a missed opportunity to have been able to have more of a visual presence and an engaged involvement by attendees for something that directly resonated and would have resonated had more of us had known that was happening. So as we prepare for future sessions, and there has been conversation as well, what does next year look like? Do we want to keep the same sort of format? Do you want to have perhaps virtual components in advance of the actual day? Do we want to have multiple days? We've already had some post-event conversations as a core group on that. But definitely as we look at next year, to have early conversations and and more detailed feedback on how this year went and how we may want to make some pivots and adjustments for next year to really have it be even more impactful. It was impactful this year in different ways, but to have it even more impactful, as well as to have a now what? Yes, we've come to the Capitol. Yes, we've heard some very important, informative information. But now, what do we want and what can we empower people to do with it as a now what? Commissioner Ramsdale.
Yeah, thank you very much. I wanted to just quickly speak to and maybe pose a question to the group regarding the vote that was taking place while Black Legislative Day was going on. I think a lot of us were kind of struck by those comments when some of our legislators came up and spoke at the event. And I'm just curious, in the future, while we might not always know what debates are taking place or what's going on, there might be some shifts that happen prior to. In an instance like that, is there something that can be done as far as communication so that we are kind of aware while that's taking place that these kind of things are going on? Because I did hear from a lot of folks, now that you've brought it up, Chair Johnson, that that is something they definitely wanted to be present for. And I think having that presence within the room would have spoke volumes and could potentially, change the outcome of things. We really don't know. So I guess the question I'm posing is, in those instances, is there someone we can be in contact with? Obviously, they could be in contact with Executive Director Nell, but I'm thinking more so ways we can communicate with our legislators better as a body.
I will look to Executive Director Nell on a response to that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things at play in terms of the legislative calendar and how that gets set and how much advance warning anyone has for anything that's going on in the legislative calendar. The amount of time that goes into planning an event of this scale on the days that we're planning it, let me just put it this way. It's oftentimes that they don't know until the day before, perhaps even that day, what's going to be voted on, at most maybe a week in advance. So it is, I'm in our uh, debrief afterwards, some people who are also up on the how the legislature actually works, really it is a big ask to know in November what day we should be there, because we just don't know. Having said that, I mean, like, I have essentially planned out an entire 4 series worth of stuff where it is I will always contend that it will be much easier to move a smaller group of people, and that I mean, honestly, the answer is sure. Sure, if we wake up that day and find out that they're debating Charlie Kirk on the floor, I would also say at that point it's not a place where we can have any kind of feedback. Us being there isn't going to be anything except us being there. I understand that us being there has weight, but I mean, yeah, sure. There's a lot of things we could have done. We could have peeled off 20 people and gone and sat in the gallery. Yeah, we could have done that. We didn't do it. If that's the goal next year, then I think we can design days around those goals, right? I think this year shifting everything to docking made the goal sort of be focused on the education and the fact that everyone can hear. Me having planned this event now since 2021, until this year, the absolute biggest piece of feedback I ever got was that people couldn't hear. Hands down, the absolute biggest piece of feedback I heard from 2021 up until this event was that people couldn't hear. I couldn't hear. It's, all this stuff. So this year, the thing I was trying to solve was, can people hear? So now I solved the can people hear question. Now the biggest piece of feedback is that people want people that the goal is not that people actually want to hear. What people actually want is Black people in the Capitol, which to me, those are two different events. So people actually, I don't think people actually want to listen to speakers. I think they just want Black people in the Capitol. In which case, okay, well, now that I know that's actually what people want, well, then we can plan events around that. Right. And I think that in terms of Black Legislative Day, will have to be broken up into smaller portions, because if you're dealing with 250 people, I mean, the goal, then if the goal is to take 250 people won't fit in the House gallery. They won't fit. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I think if the goal is people in the Capitol, well, then, like, Angela and Chair Johnson, I've already sent you a mock-up of what we can do next February with 4 consecutive Mondays arbitrarily of events, where one of them is the goal is actually to hear people talk about what's going on. And that event takes place in docking, but it needs to be clearly understood that the goal of that day is not to be in the Capitol. And then I've already planned out, because I mean, this is not, I've already planned out 3 other events in the following Mondays in the month of February, where the goal is to have Black people in the Capitol, going to committee, going to the chambers and talking to legislators. If that is, I think, again, this is my lived experience planning for 250 people. Those are 2 different events. So we can have a day where the goal is education, learning about various topics that pertain to the Black community. That event, I think, could be on the first Monday of February. That event takes place at docking. That's when we have legislators come over and talk. That's when we have the governor do her proclamation. And we can put a vendor fair in docking. But it has to be understood that the goal of that day would not be having Black people in the Capitol, because that event will pull over 200 people. And then what I would offer, is that we would have 3 more days, that KAAC would sponsor 3 more days, where we would cap it at 50 people. We're going to sell 50 spots, and that's it. And then the goal of that 50, because then those people can go into the space by the visitors entrance. So if there's any kind of talking, we can be in a room where people can hear, because again, if you put people in the Capitol, they're not going to be able to hear. And then with 50 people, you can take 50 people to the gallery. You can take, you can divide 50 people up amongst committees. And with 50 people, yeah, I mean, it's still an undertaking, but you can divide 50 people up and take them to visit legislators. Because I do hear very strongly that there is a very big desire that the goal of this day should be that people, Black people, are in the Capitol. Similarly, if we take this and break it out into 3 separate events, I mean, I've said this publicly several times and I will hold to it. Yeah, it's nice to have 200 Black people in the Capitol on one day. How much more powerful would it be if there are several days of Black people in the Capitol? That's why the AKAs one a day. Bring it on. I'll help you out. Delta's fantastic. Come on, Storytime Village. Let's do it. Amen. Let's do it. You know, I've told people you have a book club, and I will help you figure it out. If you got 20 people, you know, there are groups that, yeah. But I was just trying to answer the question. I'm quiet.
And I think unless I'm missing it, and Commissioner Ramsey, I know you're correcting me, I'm not hearing the response to the question that I thought was really core to what she was asking, which was the engagement with the legislators, which I know speaks to a bigger perspective and issue. I know for myself as an attendee previous, I've heard consistent feedback over the years, and not just from legislators, from attendees, on a question of our direct engagement and responsiveness to what's happening with legislation that pertains to and impact us, and our engagement or lack of engagement during this event with specific legislation or the legislators trying to move forward legislation. So Commissioner Ramsdell, I don't know if I was mishearing, or is that a core part of what you were asking? How can we be more aware of what's happening in the legislative space to be able to include that as a part of the purpose of the event?
Yeah, in part, I think both perspectives of what I said are equally important. I more so mean how KAAC engages with our legislators. I mean, I heard from a few of them at that event and at other events just stating, you know, we all got to come together more and see what, like, how we can be more powerful in our voice, and I feel like we consistently hear that, but we haven't really landed on what's the best way to do so. And I think we talked about the education portion of Black Legislative Day being a component of that. But speaking to what Executive Director Nell said, we could have multiple opportunities where we are engaging with them more and hearing more about what they're doing and helping to do for our community. So I guess there's maybe there's not a question there, but maybe some food for thought for us with regard to engaging more with our legislators.
Okay, thank you for that. And Stacey, I don't want you to stop the full picture of the thought of the response, but I just wasn't hearing what to that stood out, and hearing that in the response back. Was there anything further, Stacey, that you wanted to share? Okay. Okay. Any other questions or updates for Black Legislative Day? Okay. And again, being that there is feedback, and I know Commissioner Ramsdale shared that she has some notes, we can continue to offer perspective in our future meetings as we prepare for next year and set the stage for next year's event. Okay, Stacey, we can move on with the budget?
The event cost $10,160. The lion's share of that was marketing. We hired SCG Media to do the marketing for it, and then the food. The remaining dollars that we have discretionary spending over is $9,008.36. So, and I send all this documentation out. The other update I have is that HB 2708 has died for this year, which is good news for us, and so it will not be taken up again.
Stacey, did you happen to get any more any additional dialogue or perspective from the governor's office on that proposed legislation when it was something that was actually a possibility?
No, they weren't going to. It's one of those things where nothing happens until something happens. And because the legislation didn't move, nothing happened.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions from the commission? Okay, let's move on to the next item, which is old business. And we'll begin with our KLC grant spots and the flyer to get the word out. I want to extend a thank you to Commissioner Crystal Davis and to Stacy for the crafting and drafting of a communication to go out to the public. Stacy, do you have any other updates on where that stands right now? And I know we did receive at least one response. I see lips moving, but nothing further
Nope,
on that.
no other updates. I sent out the one person who contacted me and with the rubric that you guys had decided on to use. So I will await your decision.
Okay, so do we need to do a vote on that or we can, I know you did send out that rubric, so this would be the time to talk about it. As we are pulling that up, I'm gonna give everybody an opportunity to pull up the applicant as well as the rubric. I know there was a desire to extend an opportunity for one of our partners that has been with us for this past year, really engaged, Wendell Kamori with the Voter Network. Stacey, have we been able to extend a direct invitation for her to be able to participate? Okay. And did she accept that or waiting to hear back on if she's interested and able? I know she wears a number of hats and she is still in
She has
school.
accepted that. She is both interested and able.
Awesome. Wonderful. Okay. So we did receive, and that has been shared with us by Stacy, one response from a constituent out of the Topeka area that did follow the instructions of sharing a response to the question, identify who she was. I'm trying to recall if she stated which program she wanted to be in. Again, all of my windows I'm trying to find, the communication. Here we go. But is there any initial feedback on the submission that we received? Oh, a separate email. Okay, give me one moment. I just remember it's a separate email. So let me pull that email up. So a part of the process is we wanted to ensure that we had a fair process for being able to offer these limited spaces to the community. So we did previously develop a rubric to help us in having a uniformed system and approach and guiding us on being able to select those who express interest and offer these seats to them. Based on the rubric, it is a 100-point evaluation criteria with there being 3 areas that we are looking at, which is the provision of personal contact information, identification of program preference, and then the applicant's response to the single question that we pose, which is, why is effective leadership important for advancing the best interests of our community? We did receive a response from Ms. Siobhan Holmes, again, out of the Topeka area. I'm not sure if anything further was provided, but she did provide an answer to that question, which is a maximum of 80 points. She did provide her contact information, which gives an additional 10 points. I don't see a communication of which program preference she had. Stacey, did she provide that perhaps in the emailed correspondence or other correspondence where she identified which program she was interested in?
So let me look.
I'm sorry.
I'm looking, I'm reading.
Okay.
No. But to be fair, I'm off the top of my head, I'm not positive. Is that on the fly? Is that information on the flyer? Now I don't have the flyer in front of me. Okay. Okay, fair enough.
Okay. So apparently that part was not submitted, meaning there are 10 points that we would not be able to provide. At this point, Is there any feedback as to us not providing the full number of points for the response to the question and the provision of a personal contact information, which would be 80 points and 10 points respectively? Not seeing any question to that. Is there a motion to, which would mean that she would be eligible for 90 points, which exceeds the minimum required to offer the spot? So with that being said, is there a motion to extend an offer of a spot to Ms. Holmes?
Madam
Commissioner
Chair,
Trent,
this is Commissioner Davis. Go ahead, sir.
after you.
So
ma'am.
moved. So moved.
Second.
So Commissioner Crystal Davis has moved to extend 90 points for the application for Ms. Siobhan Holmes. That has been seconded by Commissioner Trent Davis. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. It has been passed. An invitation will be extended or offer be extended to Ms. Holmes for one of the spots. Being that per the application, or at least the rubric, we still have additional time for this spring push out. So Stacy, sometimes things come up in my feed, sometimes they don't. Have you already pushed this out via the various channels that we have, or can we do another push out to encourage more responses via the Facebook, the email? I don't know if we can update the website. Remind me, update
I
the
mean, this is probably
website.
something that we'll just push out once a month, no matter what, since there are spots that are open up until September. So I sent everything out last week. Ms. Holmes literally got back to me within the day. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Wonderful. And when we communicate with her, Stacey, can you also encourage her to share with others in her network and encourage others to apply so we can get more applications in? And again, as we as commissioners see that information being pushed out, we can also push out within our respective networks to encourage more participation. Thank you. I know for myself, oh, go ahead, Commissioner Davis, Crystal
I
Davis.
apologize. Thank you, Chair Johnson. Is there a consequence from the Kansas Leadership Center if these 40 slots are not filled?
I'm not, the consequence would be that if we apply for this again, we might not get it. So but let's say we get to August and it really looks like we're not going to finish them before September. They've just asked us to contact them to say, hey, we're not going to fill these last 5, whatever positions are left by then. That way they can allocate them to somebody else. I think the issue is if we don't tell them anything, that's when it becomes problematic. But if we communicate to them, hey, we're not going to fill the slots, they're like, thank you for letting us know. And I think that would be the issue. I think it would be the issue if the year passes and we just don't say anything and
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit nervous, and maybe it's unfounded, especially if, and I'm not sure if we talked about it or it was just in my head that we were going to take 5 or 10 each per commissioner and recruit people, and maybe that's not what we said. It seems like I remember a general conversation about that, because I also know in this area. Black Entrepreneurs of Flint Hills also has 25 slots, so they will also be pushing heavily, just in our area here in Junction City and Manhattan. And so I, on one hand, think the rubric is important and everything, and on the other hand, another side of me is like, if someone shows interest and wants to take leadership training, bar nothing crazy, that we should allow folks in. And I don't mean like, ridiculous outliers or things like that, but like to fill these slots and to give, people opportunity, which leads me to the question of, we didn't have an age limit. So I'm assuming 18 and up. So like if I approach the high school, if I approach the Carnes Academy, if I approach K-State, which probably not, because I'm sure Sheila and them are going to make a big push for K-State students, but was there any regulations or requirements around age and or young people. And I'm saying over 18. Of course I would, keep that to 18 and over. Is there any guidance on that?
I think over 18, that person would be an adult. I don't
Yeah.
see how that would be a problem.
Okay.
I don't know for a fact, but I can't imagine that they would say, "Oh, take not turn away a legal adult."
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis, just to affirm your memory, we did have that conversation about possibly allocating so many spots per commissioner. We then had a subsequent conversation of similar on the same spirit, I think, of what you said about this is a wonderful opportunity. We don't want to have barriers, that we would just make it available to anyone who would reach out based on the criteria of the rubric, which was a part of the concern lifted in mindfulness of our executive director of wanting to have consistency in how we make selections and how we do the things that we do that have impact publicly. So that was the reason for the rubric. But again,
Yes.
the shared spirit and intent that I think we all have is to make this available and not have barriers, but just to have some framing to show that it's not just a willy-nilly, we just throwing slots at people or we're just throwing anything at anybody, but that we have a structure to how we are moving this forward. But you are not
Thank you.
making that up. You absolutely had that part of the
Okay.
conversation as well earlier on. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, or a conversation about the leadership grants? One more thought, Stacy, is I know we're taking kind of a offensive approach. Is that the right word? I'm not a sports person. I probably shouldn't use that. More of a passive approach of put it out there. Whoever responds, responds. Is it possible to take a more, I don't want to say aggressive, that's not the right word either, but more active approach of those entities that we're partnered with? We know, and the likelihood is who we're partnered and connected with, they have their own or already have done it. But if we can send a direct email out to, first people that came to mind was, I know TCAM, though I know that they've already done it, but just partners, people that we partner with regularly. I know we have connection at Nicodemus, we have connection with 250, we have connection with these different other entities, maybe even cold cause offers to the universities. We just never know. Can we do a more active extension of, hey, we have this opportunity. If you know of anybody, students, colleagues, staff, respond, please.
The simple answer is yes. The more complex answer is that, to your point, a lot of these entities have their own positions, right? And I think the spirit of this program is to reach people who are not already engaged. So, I mean, the simple answer is sure. Yeah, I can do all those things and reach out to TCAM and all the people that you want me to reach out to. Yes, I don't know if, I guess that's not how I guess that's not how I'd hoped this was going to be used. I was like, for example, the first time I learned about this was because someone literally, a friend called me and said, "Hey, here's this opportunity." And so I think, yeah, back to what Dr. Crystal was saying, that one of the original ideas was that each commissioner would be able to find 5 people that that, like, hey, this is an opportunity that we've got. Sure, I can. Yes, the simple answer, yes, I will reach out to anyone you tell me to reach out to, and I'll say this opportunity exists. However, I'm not sure that's the intent of the grant. Most of the other programs, because I as a grant administrator, I'm required to go to the meetings that they put out for this grant. And most of the, well, not most, I should say, the ones who have showed up to the office hours, it's like, it would be like, it's not Storm Mountain Vale, but there are these large things. And so what they're doing is that they're requiring all their employees to go, right? That we are one of the smallest groups to get something. It's usually, it would be like K-State's educational department then saying all of the professors are required to go. So a lot of the places are not reaching out. The whole point is we got it. Now we're going to make everybody internally go. So yes, if you want me to reach out to TCAM, that's easy. I can do that. If you want me to reach out to.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that perspective. And let me clarify. Like, for example, we had Mr. Graves, who joined us earlier, who will have conversations and reach out. I don't know if he's familiar with this or aware of it, but I guess the point I'm trying to make, and let me rephrase it, is those entities in his organization. Are they familiar with this? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. So what I'm asking is, and I just threw a random example who came to mind first, which are these larger, well incorporated, ingrained into this language and this space group, but that's not exclusively what I meant. Those entities connected to us, such as I highlighted Window, who, and maybe the voter network team. I don't know if they know about this. I don't necessarily see them. So though I gave some very well involved organizations as the example, because those came to mind first. The intent of what I'm saying is organizations connected to us and individuals in those organizations connected to us, extending the opportunity to them because they may not be connected or informed. As well as there is this intention that it's to those that are connected within our network, but we also know we're building our network. So yes, we're pushing it out in our public listservs, in our email accounts, in our Facebook. But as Commissioner Davis expressed, just a concern if that's going to be enough to get people to respond as we're building our connection and relationship with more of a public facing, everyday person that may be tapped into KAAC. So, but thank you for what I also heard you already say, your willingness to reach out. And then again, I gave some clarity about what my intention was.
Clarity. So if we find ourselves in a shortfall for spots, is it you want it to be my responsibility to fill the rest of the spots?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
You hold database. So it's not exclusive to you, just as with everything else that I say. I ask the commissioners to also push it out in our network as we see and receive information that's already been said and communicated and stated and should be understood. What I'm saying is you hold the database of the formal connections and relationships. If there's an ability for you as the administrator for KAAC to do a more purposed effort to reach out, that's what I'm saying. In addition to already having stated and requested that commissioners also involve ourselves in securing additional participation. Any other comments, thoughts, feedback, or needed clarification regarding the transformation grant opportunity? Commissioner Davis.
And this is Commissioner Davis. Thank you, Chair Johnson. Just thinking out loud, I just was kind of drawing up a list for myself, of who I could reach out to and, send the flyer and invitation. And I'm thinking about Powell County Community College because I work there, and there's students like in our PTK leadership group who may be interested. And of course, sorority and church that comes top of mind. And I'll look at the flyer again to see when there are the next Zoom opportunities, because I'm also thinking about, some groups and folks that I wrote down who may or may not be able to travel to Wichita. And so didn't want that to be something they would say, oh, I'd love it, but, for whatever reason, can't get to Wichita. And so I'll look again at the flyer and look at Zoom dates for especially like students from Cloud, for instance, right? The students could still do it. The PTK group is who I'm thinking of, and be able to do it online and, learn a lot, a resume ad for young people, and, learning more about, good leadership, authentic leadership. So that's just a comment, I guess. Thank you.
And thank you, Commissioner Davis, for raising those additional examples of partners and collaborators within the commissioner landscape and network that we can reach out to. Commissioner Trent Davis.
Yeah, I thought that you would have had 3 people from the Salina area with their applications in, but so I have some phone calls to make here because I kind of handpicked them to, I didn't want to say you really need to go, but from where you are now, where you're trying to get, this would be a great opportunity. One other related question: I feel like I am losing the war of abbreviation. What does PTK stand for?
Phi Kappa Tau. It's a leadership organization, Dr. Trent, at various colleges and universities across the country of students who engage at a higher level of activities, within schools, similar to a student government, but it's a national organization and they have conferences and we our PTK group at Fayette County Community College just won a national award for a research study that they conducted. And I'm the IRB chair, so kind of helped them, get through that research study and was awarded here just recently, like 3 weeks ago. And that comes with scholarships and monies for your local chapter, and just the good work they're doing there. So
Yes,
thank you. I should thank you for that. I should remember abbreviations.
I appreciate knowing that it exists. Thank you.
Yeah. Alvaro might know. I see he's shaking his head. He might have some familiarity with it.
Relating the accomplishments that you had mentioned, and yeah, keep up the good work.
All right, thank you. And thank you for that lesson. We learned something else new today. All right, let's keep going on to and just a mindfulness of a time check. It is 2:34. Normally our meetings are an hour, so we are exceeding our hour. We do still have some additional items. So we do have town hall plans for update. Stacey, do you want to lead that conversation?
You can refer to Dr. Crystal because she's the one who has all of the plans.
Okay,
Dr.
thank
Crystal.
you. Thank you, Chair Johnson and Director Nell. So we have done really well with the planning. I did send the save the date and Commissioner Ramsdale also is a co-MC and co-creator of the town hall. We have and are ready to send out our save the date flyer. And I think I sent that to us. I thought maybe Stacy would attach it for you all to see here at the meeting, but yeah, basic save the date flyer. We've made contact and committed to and decided on our food for the planning, and we through Executive Director Neal have made contact with the finance department with the state, and Mr. Antonio, responded back to us, and we will be able to start the process with getting the caterer its paperwork complete on March 20th, and making sure that we stay ahead of that. And thank you to Executive Director Nell for letting us know the insight and kind of working ahead in things of budget and what we need to do with the state, because we know big outfits can run slow. So catering and food decided, of course, the church has confirmed, Dr. Larry Jones has confirmed use of Second Missionary Baptist Church as the site. We have a draft run of show, which as we move forward, I'll get to Executive Director Neal, who's also going to help us with printing, as that could and should go through a state vendor first. And Chair Johnson has been wonderful and has created for us a draft survey. Thank you. Thank you. A draft survey as a tool for us, because I think I was probably thinking a bit narrow, as in questions for Congressional District 2, and things that impact Kansans. But Chair Johnson really brought some excellent points and ideas to us about broadening those questions, and sort of a tool and template that we can use across districts as other commissioners decide and plan, to host their own town halls. So I thought that was really great in terms of us having some consistency. And of course, from the brief, we did throw out, I don't know, 15 or 20 questions just as ideas to get us started. And so Chair Johnson has been wonderful in helping us to develop this initial draft tool for questions that we can poll the participants of the town halls. And I imagine also that will be, along with the brief, creating templates, right, and standard consistency, so that the next commissioner that plans a town hall now with us as commissioners, and possibly even beyond us, that we are creating this a bit of a standardized format to make it easy for us, but then also consistency, across districts. And I could see that being very valuable for us in terms of data collection, seeing patterns and trends across what Black Kansans are saying across, districts and constituents. And so there is not, Chair Johnson, an edible link, but whatever updates, and we can move that actually, yes, ma'am, to a Canva or Adobe link so that it can be used, over and over again. So that one you see on Chair Johnson is just a Canva, I'm sorry, a chat project creation from images. But again, and thank you so much because I will get really focused on a project or a thing and become really laser like. So keeping me intentional and top of mind, right? That as we're creating it for District 2, we are sort of, kind of building this for all of us, the commission and across districts. So I would say some good planning there. I've talked to Sheila just kind of on the side for a potential marketing plan. She's the guru, and we're just having coffee and just asking her, like, how would I go about that? In addition to executive director using our outlets and database, as we mentioned earlier, to push out, and then my own and others. Social media platforms and any other way, emails and any other ways. I was also thinking through and might, also seek you all's feedback about congressional district 2 and like getting emails for churches, NAACP, Divine Nine organizations where I could really be intentional about getting it out further than just this area, right? Because as you guys know, it's 25 counties in congressional district 2, and how I might then reach Black Kansans in, say, like the Western counties or counties where we know, African American people exist, and at least, extending the invitation and information. So if anyone has, any immediate thoughts or ideas about that, Commissioner Ramsdale and I are definitely open for feedback. So I think initial planning's moving smoothly. I'm really excited to start launching things with Executive Director Nell on her end and database, and all of our socials, my own socials, and emails to people in Congressional District 2. So thank you, and I would love any and all feedback or and questions that you may have.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Davis, for all of the work that you've done to help in framing what this can look like and in being willing to be the first up to bat. Thank you for that. Um, Not a question necessarily for you. So, Stacy, heads up FYI, I'm looking at what we can do here in District 4. Um, and being one that usually just shows up to these, not behind the scenes, understanding how much stuff costs, I did reach out to the location we hosted the brunch at, thinking that could be another location for us because it's very much centrally located. We'll get a good neutral draw. Was put in shock with the cost for this space. So continuing to identify a location and solidify a date. We're taking a collaborative approach here with some partnered efforts. So really still narrowing down the date. But again, thank you, Commissioner Crystal Davis, for the footprint that you have established for us to be able to move it forward. Commissioner Davis mentioned the survey tool. Again, just a reminder that part of the intent of these town halls is to be able to get feedback from the community on spaces and areas that the commission can and should focus in on for next year, our priorities for next year, under whoever will be the commissioners and whomever will be the chair at the time for going into next year. So we do want to have a shared uniform approach for that. So there is a drafted survey. You all know I love a good survey. And tools that can be utilized both digitally at the event and even just via KAAC communication channels, the usual listserv, emails, Facebook, social media, to push out to get feedback back that we will be able to look at and analyze and help to shape and frame what next year will look like. So that was drafted very, very recent, as in earlier today and shared, but it's in draft form. But by the time we have our first event, which will be Commissioner Crystal Davis and Commissioner Jade Ramsdale's event, it looks like we'll have a finalized version of what can be sent out, both in a printed copy, realizing not everyone is tech savvy, especially those that may be present at the event, as well as a digital framing. So that is all I have.
And Chair Johnson, if we might, right before we move forward, just maybe another minute or two on Executive Director Neil, could we just see the run of show again? I saw that you had that up there. I think I had one specific question, and not to belabor this. And I'm not sure, I'm always want to seek feedback. And so I don't want to bug us and drive us bananas, with feedback or whatever, but um, just want to look at that. And one other question, yes, that I definitely want to ask right now. Of course, been able to meet Mr. Eric Murray as a part of at our Black Entrepreneurs of the Flint Hills Gala this weekend, which by the way was fabulous. I don't know if you all have a chance to see any of the pictures on social media, but really a blessing and a very good time in one of the signature events in the Junction City, Manhattan area. In addition to that, we had our NAACP meeting last night. Was able to meet him there again. So one of my questions is, he asked and would be very excited I would imagine, to be able to speak at the town hall. And I briefly mentioned this to Stacy again because I'm learning and want to make sure I'm kind of doing everything in order. What are your thoughts about that? And I know Stacy gave me some context about making sure that if people are speaking at to be very careful if they're Republican and Democrat and nonpartisan and have a mix. Is that something that we can allow? And maybe not so much of being on the program as listed here, but as I've seen at other places where, and even at the Black Farmers, and I don't know if Stacey's going to speak about that today. I know Executive Director Nell and I attended that summit. Is it okay? Is it fair? Is it allowable to have candidates running for positions to say hello to us, for example, at this town hall meeting? What does that look like? Is that a allowable thing? Is that a risky thing? I'm not sure. So I'm seeking guidance there because I've already, been asked if that was possible to be able to say hello to the people. Thank you. I'm sorry, Stacey, we can't hear you. And then also, Stacey, I would love to have Windows information because we do have her on the program, and I actually need to check with her and make sure that this date will work for her to come and speak to us. So two things.
Commissioner, this is Trent David. For our NACP, we just had our Freedom Fund banquet, and we had a request for a similar situation, and we always recognize elected elected officials and prominent folks in the community, but to have them speak, we thought was going beyond. They can work the crowd after and before, but to recognize them is one thing. To have them speak is, particularly if they're candidates, we thought went a little further. Not everybody in ACP agrees with that.
And so that was for a banquet setting, and I actually, totally understand that, Commissioner Davis. And so you're saying you would feel that same way, even in a town hall setting?
Well, candidates don't know how to just say, "Hi, I'm Joe Blow," and sit down. I mean, 3 minutes in, you're going to have to get the hook and yank them off the podium.
Yeah. Which I would be happy to do, but that's a sidebar thing. Okay, yeah, I definitely appreciate the feedback because, want to just kind of make sure I'm doing things in order and, not opening up a can of worms and then saying, oh, if we have one Democrat, now we have to have a Republican or we have to have an independent. I don't know. I'm learning politics in these ways. And so thank you for that.
If you invite them all and only two show up, well, then, sorry for the ones who didn't accept your invitation.
Thank you.
I have a similar question on that. And then how do we, yes, they're candidates, but they're also constituents, business owners, people who have voice and perspective beyond the fact that they're, before the fact that they're a candidate. So I guess my thought, and Stacy, you know, your feedback is putting them um, on the agenda is one thing. If they're a candidate, no, but them having space to share their perspective, their lens as constituents in the state. I mean, how can we stop that? But also recognizing that because they're candidates, they're like what Commissioner Trent Davis just shared. You know, they're going to go into
Yeah.
their respective
As
spills.
long as they don't present as a candidate, if a person's Secretary of State and he happens to be running again, he's still Secretary of State. So any job duty or function or topic that he's addressing as the sitting Secretary of State, he'd be entitled to do, I would think, but not as candidate.
Yeah. And I think, and I'll check this, excuse me, the Congressional District 2 now, part of Wyandotte County is in the district. And I want to check if where he lives is in Congressional District 2. Just as a side note, that occurred to me.
Yeah.
Stacey, do you have
Can
feedback
you guys
for
hear
us?
me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I would definitely be hesitant to put him on the program for all the reasons that Dr. Trent said. Also, knowing that he is coming from one political spectrum, and one piece of feedback that we got even from the Black Legislative Day was a person felt that it was too one-sided in view, and that we were only pushing one political agenda. So ultimately, my take would be no, not to put him on the program. I remember when we had the brunch in Olathe, I was very hesitant to even have people who were running stand up to identify who they were, and I did cut off the first person as soon as she went into stump. I was like, give me the mic, only because that is over at that point. That is overtly political if you have him on as a candidate. Now you're right, he's a constituent. If he shows up and asks a question, great. But if anyone moves into stump territory, then we get into trouble.
And so okay. Stacy, what also made me think to ask this question is when you and I attended the BIPOC Summit and the Black Farmers, how he at the end, I say recognized, but called out different representatives, legislators, and those in the room. Do you remember that? It was kind of towards the end of the day, or maybe towards lunch. Anyway, he called out several legislators and political persons that were in the room. I got just as an acknowledgement.
I mean, I think it's always good to acknowledge. I'm going to completely defer to what Dr. Trent said. If you want to acknowledge people who are in the room who are already elected officials, I think that makes complete sense. I mean, ultimately, I'm hesitant. My official line is I would be hesitant to put him on the program.
Yeah. And that I don't think will happen at all.
If he lives in CD2, or if anyone who's a candidate lives in whatever congressional district that the person is doing the town hall in, yes, they're a constituent. I would think they would have complete freedom to stand up and say whatever they want to say. And as Dr. Trent already pointed out, they can work the room afterward. But for KAAC to officially look as if we're pushing that a particular candidate is going to become problematic.
Yeah, well, and I would never, I'm smart enough, to know that. I'm learning a lot, but definitely, know better than that.
Right.
Okay. Is there anything else? And again, I'm done with this, and thank you so much. But is there anything else to you that is on the program that's okay, out of order? Maybe we shouldn't consider. Again, it's my first time, and I guess my thought about Window and the Voters Network. Executive Director Nell. I want to make sure that's okay. I have here voter engagement spotlight, but then I thought, oh no, Crystal, you should probably ask because Wendell will have to drive there. I don't know about mileage for her. Is this something she does as a part of the voter network and travel across? I have no idea about that. So I wanted clarity before I made the ask to Wendell. And if it's a yes
Yeah.
or a no.
Well, we would just need to reach out, just like we reached out to Voter Network in order to have Window participate in all of the brunches that we had last summer. So it would be the same. I would
Okay.
imagine it would be the same procedure, just to reach out to the Voter Network, right? And just like, I had meetings with the Voter Network because they are essentially her employer, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
her travel was covered because that was her
Okay.
job. So
Okay.
we could check, because I don't know if we just have to check, right? It's just an issue of checking. April, she's in
Okay.
school. I know over the summer she wasn't in school, which made it a little easier. It's just an issue of setting up the meeting
Okay.
with the Voter Network.
So then I could just go to Voter Network to find the proper email to reach out to make that connection.
I can get you her contact information.
Okay.
And
That'd
if
be
push
great.
comes to shove, I mean, there are other people who work for the Voter Network who can also do the presentation.
Okay.
And quite frankly, I feel like I could do the presentation. I've heard it enough, but yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you, everyone. And any feedback, whether that's email, telephone, or whatever, I appreciate it as we go down this journey of creating what I hope to be an excellent town hall that can be replicated, and that we'll appreciate, and that I appreciate the group's help in doing that. So thank you.
Commissioner Davis, quick question, and I do want to note I did a time check. We technically are 25 minutes past our end time, with a couple more items. Really quick question. The questions that were, I know you already have some, I think, things being printed and everything. Those questions are already a part of something that's being printed?
No, nothing's being printed yet. Yeah.
Okay. 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 Any other questions or thoughts regarding the town hall? Okay. We're on to new business. Stacy?
Yes. Okay. So I just decided that the best way to do it is just to literally put up the email that I received, because this is literally all I know. That the CEO of Hilo Inc., the minority nonprofit in Hutchinson, Kansas, is inviting us to commission to attend, uplift, celebrate their 5th annual Juneteenth Jubilee luncheon in Hutchinson, Kansas. So this came through the general email, and I'm like, well, thank you for reaching out. I will just pass it on to the commission. And this is the entirety of everything I know.
They didn't provide the date? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, June 12th. I realized I needed to scroll down just a titch. Doop. At the Stringer Arts Center, that's the address, but I wanted to make sure you had the body of the email.
And it's simply for us to attend. Is there any cost associated with this, or she's just looking for representation and attendance from the commission?
Yeah, right now it looks like it's just to attend. And so this is literally everything I know. It's focuses children, families experiencing the foster care system. It's the annual Juneteenth blood drive, emphasis on sickle cell disease and the effects, for a second, the annual Juneteenth Jubilee Community Luncheon, projection and celebration. This is going to be their 5th blood drive and 5th Jubilee Community Luncheon in Hutchinson, reaching out to the Kansas African American Affairs Commission to cordially invite the commission to attend, uplift, celebrate legacy, build community, and move with intention at our 5th annual Jubilee Luncheon. If there is a formal request that needs my attention before the invite could be considered, please advise. And so when this received, I said, thank you for sending it. And I said, we have actually a commission meeting coming up this Friday. I would pass it on. So right now, it doesn't look as though she's not asking for money. I think she's just asking for a presence at this point, looks like.
Commissioner Trent Davis, what is the word the word uplift looks like she may want you to be an active participant.
Well, I mean, I can definitely, if you guys want to send me all your questions, I can email her back. Like the only response I've given back to her was, I will pass this on to the commission. So I can definitely, if you have questions, I can pass on questions and find out, because I don't know. Right now, this is the entirety of what I know.
And if you scroll down, what time is it? Is the time there?
1 to 3.
If you can share that, I might be able to attend. I think as we get invitations to connect with the community. If we can participate and represent the commission, we should. Right now I have well, first of all, the 12th is Friday, so I don't know. So maybe it's actually the 13th, June, right? Yeah, it's Saturday. So just want to confirm that it is Saturday, the 13th, I suspect. But if you can share, if it's just an invitation, I might be able to attend, or maybe just share it amongst all of the commissioners if they're able to attend, to support. And if there's more to it,
Okay.
you can let us.
This
Okay.
is literally all I know, but I can most assuredly forward this to all of you. Because I wasn't catching that this potentially might be the wrong day or the wrong date. The Saturday, June 12th issue. So there's definitely questions about what day is it actually taking place.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And that's a good sign that the community is reaching out to invite us and encourage us to be a part of events. That's a good sign. Okay. Let's move on to announcements. There is an announcement, a reminder for the KLC grant spaces of what our code is, to sign up for those spaces. I know there are at least 2 of us that are signed up to participate with the upcoming session. So if you haven't signed up, please do, so that you can try to get your ideal date before they fill up. Are there any other announcements that are not listed? All
And
right, well,
Chair
so
Johnson, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, I don't have the agenda up, but I really had a good time and I learned a lot at the BIPOC Summit and Black Farmers Summit that Stacy, Executive Director Nell, and I attended this past week. Learned really a lot about the Black farmer and a bit about entrepreneurship. So I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to have attended that. As commissioner, and Stacy and I were recognized, that's why I asked, and acknowledged as commissioners there. And so it was a great opportunity to learn. So just want to make that comment. Thank you.
awesome. And thank you for going and representing us. All right, any other announcements for the good of the body? Is there a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second.
Are you ready for the question? All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Okay.
Any opposed? Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Okay. Bye-bye.